So what exactly do you do at C9 right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we obviously partnered with Microsoft. We partnered with Microsoft relatively recently. So a lot of it right now is trying to figure out kind of what are the high priority projects to do, and this is like across all of Cloud9's games, not just CS:GO. So part of it obviously is CS:GO. Part of it is our league team, League of Legends, Overwatch, and kind of figuring out by working with the different coaches on the different teams and the players as well, kind of figuring out what would they like being automated. So the way we kind of like figure that out is what takes a lot of time right now in man hours, and then we try to see, okay, can we actually automate that in some way? And that's kind of like the biggest filter of figuring out, okay, what are we going to be working on? The way that we kind of group teams to eventually anti-strat and counter them in the future, it actually isn't in terms of specific teams. It's not like we're playing Astralis and let's see exactly what they have been doing historically and try to counter them. Because to be honest, I mean, teams at the top, they change how they're playing from game to game, from match to match all the time. They're not playing the same way. So what we do instead is we look for cues early on in the game to basically cluster or group teams into types of teams. So for example, I'll give you very basic examples. Like, is this a CT? Is this a team that plays generally aggressive on CT side on overpass? Is this a team that plays really slow on T side until XYZ happens? So making into very easy statements that we can give information to players with that they can.
You could also be like,
see.
they take banana control literally every round.
Exactly.
Versus a team that might switch it up. Like, Astralis has like 4 different ways that you can't really know what they're going to do at banana. Like
exactly.
They have so many different ways.
Like, I wonder if you ever asked Hiko, like, hey, when you were getting called a beta all these years, like when he was in his prime, did you ever consider changing his playstyle?
Oh, I can answer that. It's a no. Didn't affect him at all. That's probably made it a bit harder, to be honest.
Probably not. Yeah.
I definitely agree that players do get affected by that, though, especially if you're, I think, an aggressive player and you go through like a slump period. Because then people just call you a moron, right? They're like, "Oh, you're just losing all your duels," but like that's all they know, or maybe it's just an off month,
So what exactly happened with FNS? Why was he brought into the team and then removed from the team almost immediately? Like, what went on there? Like, what caused all of it? Like, literally, what caused it? What happened?
So a lot of the weird roster decisions, and this applies to FNS too, the FNS situation too. A lot of the weird roster decisions that teams make, including ours, sometimes it's kind of forced from roster locks coming up, or like orgs need to know, or tournament organizers need to know that what our roster is going through tournament, stuff like that. ESL needs to know what our roster is for this upcoming season, right? So a lot of times we're actually looking at a lot of other options in the meantime. And I remember before FNS, and this is not to say anything against FNS, but before FNS, we had a bunch of other options we looked at, and some were European players, some were American players, and we were trying to replace Stewie at the time, and the role that he fit for our team was someone that was like an edge player. He helped a lot mid gaming, and overall he was just like a smart player who also had skill. So that's like a hard thing to find, right? So our first few options didn't really pan out. In the meantime, while we were looking at our options, Tar kind of told us that, hey, he kind of wants to just focus on his game. It would be nice if we got an in-game leader. So we kind of had to make 2 things happen at the same time, which is now we need an in-game leader and also someone that can kind of fit some of Stu's qualities, because Tarek doesn't completely fit that. We're kind of losing a voice when we lost Stewie. Tarek doesn't, he's like I said, really good at kind of remembering things and being able to apply them, but he doesn't have that much of a voice when coming up with stuff. Okay. So FNS came in. Initially, it was pretty good, because while we were actually doing stuff that we had been doing over the last few months, he was calling stuff that we already had in our playbook. It was actually pretty good, and he was actually good at adapting as well. But then we kind of got into this weird situation where we were kind of telling FNS, like, this is how we were playing and this is how it was working for us. Do you think you can call like this? Whereas like FNS obviously wanted to bring his own style as an IGL, as he should. And I think that's kind of where the clash happened, is kind of we knew what worked. Obviously, we had just won our major a few months ago. We had some success. The reason that we started not having success is internal issues, not our play style necessarily. So we were like pretty confident that we knew some of the maps at least how to play really well. And obviously FNS wanted to bring his own style in. It just basically that was the clash. The way he wanted to play was a little bit more structured, a little bit less mid gaming, a little bit more kind of from the start of the round. You're gonna know what to do, and more set. And that was just kind of against how we found success. So it just clashed.
So do you think that was sort of like I don't want to say a failure in the interviewing process, but you think that would be something you guys would have discussed before you even picked him up to join the team, right? Like before you even brought him in, you think that you would have like there would have been some sort of dialogue where he would have been like, I want to play this style of play, and you guys would have been like, well, we want to play this style of play. Like was there just sort of like a miscommunication there, like initially, or like I don't know how involved you were with the actual process itself, but
partially from what I can remember, I mean, just like any interviews, you're obviously more agreeable during that phase than when you start to get on a team in this case, and you start to realize, okay, wait, how is it that I really want to play? What am I comfortable with? Obviously, an in-game leader who's been that for his majority of his career, you can't ask him or expect him to change completely. What we didn't realize is that we were doing that. I didn't think we were asking him to change completely, but essentially that is kind of what we were asking him to do once we realized how we really wanted to play. And that obviously didn't come up during the initial process. The initial process of getting as well was very quick, and it was no one's fault. It was, I think, a roster lock was coming up. I think complexity, which FNS was on the time, really actually wanted to keep FNS, so they had the leverage in that sense. And we kind of ran out of options at a certain point, and we didn't have an in-game leader because Tarek wanted to step down from that. So yeah, the combination of all that, if it worked out, it would have been kind of just like FNS completely was just, all right, fuck what I know from the last few years of being in IGL. Let's just play this other way that these guys want to play. And that's like a really difficult thing to ask in IGL, I think.
Right. So you realized that pretty quickly it just wasn't gonna work out how you wanted it to, and so that's why everything sort of went tits up.
Yeah, pretty much. So when the way that this iteration of the team was built was we didn't make the minor, which was obviously a huge shock to everyone's system. And at that point, we decided as an org that we're just going to complete a rebuild. So initially, even Tim wasn't going to be part of the roster. And it's not because Tim is a bad player. Obviously, he's one of the best players in the world, in my opinion. It's just because we needed kind of a shock to the roster. We needed to kind of completely overhaul and see what we could do if we start off from scratch, which we didn't really do from all the way. Let's take it back all the way to like, February 2018. We had just won the major from Tarek and Stu leaving from that point. We never tried to rebuild from scratch. We just try to keep getting in field players to like bring us back to that level, right? And that was not the right move, in my opinion. We should have kind of decided at some point, like, screw the major spots, screw whatever. Let's just rebuild from scratch and see what we can do. Because there's no point trying to fill in players like Stu and Tarek who have a lot of skill sets that younger players probably won't have, right? So anyway, so now we finally decided to do that after we didn't make the minor this time. And yeah, DAPS was the obvious choice for IGL. One thing we did want to do is kind of go back to majority NA. And this wasn't like pressure from the org. This was just in terms of communication. We had played with a few different European players over the last year, and they've all had their strengths and weaknesses, but the biggest weakness by far was in the heat of the moment, you're trying to say something in like a 2v2, and it just does not get across the same way that you expected because you're not talking to people that have English as their first language, right? And that's not their fault. That's just reality. So we wanted to go back to a system where communication was not going to be the main issue. And the only way to do that is you choose a language. And for us, that was English. Makes sense. United is an English org, right? We were looking at Infinite as well. Yeah. He obviously had his hiccups with the community.
Well, I can tell you, like, I'm fine with saying this. I played on a team with him for 2 months, and he was an incredible player. Like, as far as skill wise, like if he was somebody where you were just looking at, like you were talking about, if you were just looking at the data, you'd be like, holy shit. This kid is incredible.
Yeah,
like
nasty.
He's so good. His mechanics are insane. He's got this and this,
Right.
but he has some serious fucking problems he's got to work out in his brain, dude. Like he would lose his shit for no reason consistently, like every day after practice, messaging different people. We need to cut this guy. We need to cut this guy. I can't fucking play with this guy anymore. I can't stand this guy. Every day to the point where and then he would start messaging the org like, we need to cut everybody. I can't play with any of them. And the org was like, dude, you need, like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, you need to relax. And like, I don't know, I'm assuming he's worked on that. We told him at the time, like, look, man, you're a great player. You need to find a way to just chill out a little bit. Like, just like calm down. Like, you don't need to hate everybody all the time, man. Like, you're so good. You could be so good. Gage, if you're watching this right now, you could be so good, man. You really could. You just got to work on that shit, man. You got to work on it. And that was always his downfall. And I told him at the time, I'm like, look, man, there's going to be top teams that want to pick you up. They're going to look at your stats, they're going to look at your shit, and they're going to want to pick you up. And they're going to hear about this stuff that happens, and they're going to decide not to. That's what's going to happen. And you're going to need to work hard now to change this perception of you, because this is something that's going to stick with you now. You're going to need to like really work hard to fix this.
We didn't consider these guys as a team, but to me, like people who are good in MDL, like probably are Floppy. And I'm not a huge fan of his attitude from what I've seen over the last like couple of years, but he's like obviously good. There's Infinite, Floppy, Tens, and there's one other guy.
Realize, like, these kids don't realize how much the way they behave affects their possibility to join teams. They don't realize how much that affects it. Like all this shit talking you guys do in scrims to people, and when you're winning games, you're like spamming like your binds and shit and doing all that stuff. You don't realize how much of an effect that has on your actual ability to play on teams. People don't want to play with people like that. Like people they don't want to.
Even if it's not against players that they respect yet, like guess what? If I'm picking up a player, I might ask Davey, I might ask Corey what their opinions are, right? And when they start telling people that I respect, telling me that they haven't had good experiences, you know, it's going to come back around. So I totally agree. I think you guys should, the up and comers right now that are listening, I mean, you guys should definitely kind of keep your head down, play well, you know, keep learning, and don't talk shit for no reason. Banter is different. That's fine. But like, just don't go overboard.
Yeah, like don't be tweeting at people, making fun of their disabilities. Not brilliant. Not a brilliant look. Not a brilliant look, guys. Like
a good one either.
Like it's just not smart. It's just not the smartest thing you could have done. Like there's smarter things to do. That's not one of them. That was mind blowing to me. That was fucking mind blowing when I was seeing that shit. That MIBR officially just confirmed kNg. So
easier, boys.
I'm not gonna prove it because I just won't. I'm not gonna prove it. Maybe Darian can prove it, but
come to Canada.
Come to Canada. Come to Canada. So thoughts, everyone, officially now, even though it's like the worst kept secret in history. But thoughts on kNg picking or MIBR picking up kNg after everything MIBR went through with him in the past?
I think they didn't really go through anything with him, right? That was Immortals.
Well, Immortals, yeah, same ownership group though.
Yeah.
Right. I think he's a good pickup. Allegedly, before coldzera came to MIBR originally, he was the best Brazilian player. He was the one apparently that was like destroying everyone, and Cold was like, the guy underneath him. So I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's what I was told, that like kNg was the top dog. But like we've seen, he was kind of hothead and talks a lot of shit and seems to be somewhat of a moron sometimes. But I guess he's getting better.
Careful.
If someone's gonna talk shit here, it should probably be Corey. I'm down.
No, it's true. That's true. Yeah.
I just won't go to Brazil and I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll probably die there. I mean, I don't like hate the guy or anything, but just like his apology was fake. Like his the way he acted was kind of ridiculous. FNS really didn't do anything. He's never really apologized to him.
No, he's never apologized to him at all.
Yeah,
like,
so I just think like I don't personally hate the guy, but like you know,
but
he was
fuck
in the
that
wrong.
guy though a little bit.
Like,
You know, like
he was in the wrong. Like he was hunting down FNS trying to fight him. Like
kill him.
Yeah,
right?
kill him. Yeah, my bad. Not fight him, kill him. Like people just forgetting that a dude was trying to hunt someone down and kill him. Like I don't know. Like you don't just forget that. Like
it's like it's mind blowing that it was a thing that happened. Like when you at the time, I remember we were all talking about it like almost as a joke, but then when you sit down and think about it, you're like, he was trying to find him. Like
and apparently he was gonna do it too. Like he would actually. I don't know.
Yeah, he was.
How? I'm not sure. Did he have a knife? Was he just gonna strangle him? Like I'm not really sure.
FNS is kind of small. kNg seems pretty tall. Like he probably could have just strangled him real good. Like
all still mates though.
Yeah, all still friends. We're all.